I think the thing that, when I think about Como, is bravery, right? And bravery to a lot of people in football means going to challenge or raising up and winning head balls. But they're brave in the way that they play. I remember the first game they played against Juventus away from home. They dropped guys on either edge of the 6-yard box, and the goalkeeper just rolled it out to them 5 yards and invited Juventus to come and press them in their own box.
This team is only going to go higher and higher. They've got such wealthy owners, and they're spending the money, Poppy, in a really smart way. They had started getting some key veterans, but now I'm looking at the new signings, youth and talent. And they're buying these guys. They're not just getting them on dry loans. These are guys that they want to invest in and that they want to keep. They don't just want to develop them to sell them off.
Yeah, you can see the investment is there, obviously, with one of the richest owners in football, which we'll talk about in just a second. But from the outside looking in, Tony, I mean, even if you're not a massive football fan, this is the place that you want to go and watch a football match, isn't it? I mean, look at the celebrities that we've seen in attendance. Benedict Cumberbatch, Chris Pine, Keira Knightley, Andrew Garfield, Hugh Grant. The list is endless. This is a glamorous club, and understandably, because it's one of the most beautiful places in Italy and the world.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure you say no when you get an invite to, why don't you come and be our guest here in Como for a couple of days and take in a nice football match. But we've been talking a couple of weeks, Poppy. We love the way this team plays. I mean, this is cut in the mold of Cesc Fabregas and the way that he played, right? A classy player, put the ball on the deck, play through all three lines. And Vincenzo Italiano on the other side, we know the way that he wants to play. He wants to be expansive and get forward. And they've had a pretty good run over the last 7 games, right? I think they're unbeaten. So an interesting matchup today. But Como's a team, for a team that gets promoted, has a real identity that's been able to survive over the last couple of weeks. My question is, they had 4 of their last 5 games at home, which they only picked up 6 points in those. That was an important stretch for them. They've not been very good. I think it's 7 games in a row now not winning on the road. So that part they're going to have to figure out.
I mean, they're not completely safe, are they, from getting sucked into some sort of relegation battle
Only
coming
2
the end
points
of the
away.
season? Yeah, that's a bit worrying. But in terms of the owners and the investors, let's just take a look at the list of that, because they're part of the richest owners in football as of April 2024. It's the Hartono brothers from Indonesia who have made billions in the tobacco industry, buying the club back in 2019 and bringing them all the way up from Serie D to Serie A. And we don't often see a club come from lower levels like that with this kind of financial backing, Grella. So it's a nice story in a lot of ways, isn't it, that these owners that maybe could afford a lot of different teams have led them to the heights of Italian football.
You know, it's funny because it sort of feels like they have money when you think about the place, when you think about the style, when you think about the way they want to play football, who their manager is, some of their minority investors as well. If I'm not mistaken, I think TT is also an investor. So it feels like a Hollywood club, and it feels special, but the reality is they're only 2 points from relegation at the moment. The thing that, when I think about Como, is bravery, right? And bravery to a lot of people in football means going to challenge or raising up and winning head balls. But they're brave in the way that they play. I remember the first game they played against Juventus away from home. They dropped guys on either edge of the 6-yard box, and the goalkeeper just rolled it out to them 5 yards and invited Juventus to come and press them in their own box. And I think that takes a lot of bravery. It takes a lot of confidence to know this is who we are, this is the way we play. I hope it works out for them. But again, caveat is they're 2 points away from relegation, and they've got to be careful in some of these games because they'll take risks on the ball.
You know what's so smart about buying this team? If you look all around Italy and you're like, right, I'm a billionaire, I'm worth 24 bill. What do I want to buy? I want to buy a team that's close to a big city. They're only like a 45-minute drive from Milan. So you can attract players if they want to live in the big city, they can in Milan. Or if you want to live in the Lago di Como, one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth, you can do that too. So it's the perfect setting. It's a city that's a town that's never had anything of a football heritage. So, but what they do have is natural beauty. Yeah. They have a stadium on the water. They have the lake. They have Milan next door.
Place to live, is
Why
it?
not? Why not? If you're going to buy a team, you buy one that's going to attract players that want to live there. Maybe they already do have a second house there, like so many famous people have. So it's a really shrewd location for a billionaire to buy a team.
Well, speaking of the players that they have attracted, here is just a look at some of the transfers that they've brought in. I mean, you just mentioned, obviously, some of them as well when we're going through the lineup. Nico Pats being one of them. Rafael Varane was probably the one that didn't work out, because obviously he came in and then he picked up that injury and then went on to retire as well. Dele Alli as well. Let's see, that's an interesting one, coming in as a free agent on a free transfer, obviously. Do you think that the strategy around this Grella has been right when you look at the list of players, you look at the backing that they have, and you look at who they're trying to bring in?
Yeah, I love, Tony said to me before, the balance that they have between experienced guys that are experienced in the league, guys that are experienced in football, and then these young guys. I mean, Diallo for me is the story. They just added him. He's 19 years old from Spain. He's scoring goals every other game from the wing position. So I think they have so many exciting pieces. I think they're doing everything the right way. But the reality is they're going to need more firepower, more investment. They're going to need to survive this season to be able to build onto next season.
And how important do you think it was, Tony, for them to hold on to Nico Pats as well? Because not only is it just bringing in players, but it's also looking at the ones that you've got and not letting them get away either.
Yeah, and they didn't pay much for him, right? When you think about world football and transfer fees for a young kid that can be a star, there is a buyback within a period of time for Real Madrid, so we'll see how that works out. But he's had a pretty good run. But, still, when you look at, I like Strefezza, who's on the bench. Belotti, we've known forever, right? When you talk about mixing experienced players with young players, I think it's important. You can't just go completely young and think you're going to win things. So you needed to have Pepe Reina in the beginning of the year to settle things down. Now they've got the young kid, Butez, the French kid that came from, I think, Antwerp, if I'm not mistaken, right? So they're building, and they have an idea of who they want to be. So I like what they're doing, but as we just talked about, the most important thing is to stay another year in Serie A and then continue to build.
Yeah, because that's what you feel like you'll see really next year is maybe all of these young talents, once they've had some time under Cesc, come together if they can battle this season out in the second half as well, being dangerously close.